It is a hot and humid August night, a little after 11 p.m. at the Hopkinsville police station in Kentucky, when suddenly two cars full of people come to a quick stop outside the building's doors. 11 people get out, all looking terrified, breathing hard, and rush into the station. The station officer on duty was confused as they were all talking at once. After he began deciphering more about what they were trying to say, he became even more so. What they were about to report would be the strangest thing any of the officers involved would likely ever hear. A farmhouse was being invaded by little glowing, goblin like creatures. This is the 1955 case of the Kentucky Goblins. Welcome to the channel. "21-year-old Billy Ray Taylor made his way to the well nearby to grab some more water while the rest of the family sat at the table playing a game of cards. He was happy his friend decided to bring him and his wife June along to visit his family home. They were having a great time. Inside there was Lucky, Lucky's wife Vera, Lucky's three younger siblings, his mom, Glennie Langford, his sister, Eileen, and brother-in-law, JC, plus a family friend, O.P. Baker, Eileen's brother. As he was refilling his glass, he glanced up and noticed something in the skies above that appeared odd. To Billy Ray, it appeared to be a flying saucer with a colorful, rainbow-like trail behind it. He would later say it looked as if it was, quote, like an egg-shaped washtub, all lit up like a streak of fire. Suddenly, it appeared to slow and fall behind a holler in the not too far distance. Billy Ray, turning from the well, ran back to the house. Opening the door, he immediately began to tell the family about the spaceship that had landed over in the distance. He was met by laughter from the rest of the family, shrugging it off as another one of Billy's jokes on Lucky, something they were both known to do to one another. The family sat down and commenced to play their game of cards. But Billy wasn't willing to let it go. Finally, Lucky, seeing that his friend was noticeably shaken, played along and let Billy walk back to the well to point out the spot to him in the sky. After a few seconds of listening to his story and not noticing anything, Lucky convinced Billy to go back to the card game. On their way back, they saw something that stopped them both in their tracks. Gazing out across the yard and behind the house, off in the darkening distance, the two men could see something moving towards them, and it appeared to be glowing. After getting a little closer, they could make out that it appeared to be a 3 foot tall humanoid figure, having no neck, large glowing eyes set far apart, arms that nearly reached the ground with claws at the end of them, large floppy ears, a cone-like nose with a ball at the end of it, stiff-looking legs that they would later say appeared to be useless short of holding the creature up, and either wearing a silverish-looking suit or being made of metal. And while the creature's legs didn't seem too well built from walking, they would later notice they could move quite fast when using their arms. They also reported instead of walking, they appeared to be floating across the ground. Miss Langford later described the beings as, quote, a 5 gallon gasoline can with a head on top and small legs. It was a shimmering bright metal like on my refrigerator, end quote. After witnessing the glowing, floating creature, the two frightened men darted back inside and grabbed a shotgun and a .22 rifle to defend themselves and their family. The creature they could now see was holding its arms above its head as it awkwardly walked or floated towards the house. Frightened at what they were witnessing, both Billy and Lucky opened fire on the being. A metallic clang rang out as the shots hit their intended target, a noise that sounded almost like shooting a metal bucket. The being would take the hits and roll backwards out of sight. Another came out of the darkness. The two men shot. Once more, another metallic clang would ring out and the creature would roll away without another sound. It was almost like shooting targets at a carnival. Both the rifle and the shotgun would do nothing more than knock the beings backwards without harm, after which they would immediately scurry or float off to the side and out of sight. The men came back inside as the women were hiding the three children underneath the bed. JC had grabbed a gun and was loading it. Miss Langford came back after hiding the kids, wanting to ask the two men a few questions as to what was happening, and if it was a joke, it was time to stop. Just as she came upon one of the doorways and looked out, she could see a small glowing creature seeming to float just off the ground in the darkness beyond. The two men closed the door and locked it. Gleany knew now this wasn't some bad practical joke. A short while later, JC noticed a face peering in the window of the living room, claws holding the window sill. JC shot through the window, knocking the being back with a metallic clang. Billy Ray walked slowly out onto the porch to investigate. Looking around, he could see nothing. As Billy Ray reached the edge of the porch, a clawed hand shot down from the roof above and grabbed the man by the head of the hair, pulling him up. One of the women, Eileen, hearing Billy cry out and realizing what was happening, ran out and pulled the man back into the house. Lucky ran out with his shotgun, took aim, and pulled the trigger. Another metallic clang. The creature rolled off and floated away. Lucky and Billy went out to search the yard while the others stayed inside, JC ready with a loaded gun. This time, everyone saw one of the creatures perching in a nearby tree. The men took aim and shot. Everyone that was watching could tell by the tin can sound the creature had been hit. But astonishingly, instead of the creature falling to the ground like a rock, it floated away, like a leaf. Around the corner, another creature, hands raised, floating towards the men. Lucky shot to the same effect, a clang and a roll away out of sight. It was hard to tell how many glowing creatures there were, 10 or 12 or more, or just a few who kept moving really fast. Other than the metallic sounds when hit and the rustling when they moved through the foliage, the beings seemed to make no other sound, no talking or vocalizations at all. One thing the group noticed was that the goblin-like creatures didn't seem to like the light, so going back into the farmhouse, they began turning every light on they could. Another thing they noticed about the goblins, they couldn't seem to be turned away from the attack, even with bullets. After taking shelter back in the house, waiting a little while, and noticing a break in the attack, Miss Langford decided it was time to leave. Everyone, coming to the same conclusion, darted to the vehicles, hopped in, and sped toward the town to the local police station. The entire incident probably lasted somewhere around 4 hours. They reached the Hopkinsville police station around 11 p.m. Upon arriving, they rushed inside and all began talking at once. The officer working the desk could see they were well and truly terrified as they tried to decipher what they were being told. One of the men at the station, being trained, attested to the signs of fear. Billy Ray's heart rate, for example, measured 140, twice the normal rate. After hearing of the family's house invasion, probably by humans and not aliens, and of the gunfight, the officer took the matter seriously and called Chief Russell Greenwell, who then radioed the Christian County Sheriff's Office, Kentucky State Police, and Fort Campbell Army Base. 16 police officers, a photographer and his wife, a reporter, and 2 civilians went to the farm to investigate the matter, along with a couple of military police officers. One officer later noted that he witnessed 2 meteors passing by on the way to the farm, saying they went in the opposite direction of the farm and sounded like loud artillery fire. Police searched the farm until 2 in the morning. None of the family would go back into the house until it was thoroughly searched. In the field where one of the creatures was shot, one of the officers noted seeing a luminous patch in the grass, a little over a foot in diameter. Another officer noted seeing a green glow coming from off in the distance in the woods. The officers could determine the 2 men had obviously been shooting. The house was riddled with bullet holes, and shotgun shells lay scattered in the yard. Other than that, there was no evidence that was found. The police knew the men had been shooting, but no one could say at what or why. The witnesses were questioned individually, each retelling the same account. The entire investigation was extremely tense. One officer accidentally stepped on the cat's tail. Chief Russell Greenwell later said, quote, "You never saw so many pistols unholstered in your life," end quote. After searching the house and the surrounding area for hours and finding nothing, the police officers headed back to the station. Around 3:30 in the morning, Miss Langford awoke in the middle of the night to a sense of unease. Looking past her feet at the window at the end of her bed, she gazed in horror as one of the big-eyed beings was silently watching her. She called out to her family in fear. Lucky grabbed his gun and told her he was going to kill the creature. Rushing outside and shooting the being only ended with the same results that he had gotten earlier in the night. The last creature was seen around 5 a.m. or a little after. In the morning, police returned to look for evidence, some even climbing on top of the roof to look for footprints or anything else. Once again, nothing was found. The media, upon hearing of the attack, immediately came crashing down on the family, and they were bombarded by people from all over the nation. The family hated the attention and tried all they could to rid themselves of it. Realizing they were fighting a losing battle, they did the next best thing: started charging admission. People now like to point to this as a sign of hoax, just a story to make some easy money and maybe get famous. But the fact remains that they only started this as they had no other option. They couldn't keep people away. They'd only show up anyways, one way or another. If the family was going to be put out and ridiculed and have their daily lives disrupted, they may as well get something out of it. Some theories on what the goblins could have been range from raccoons, possums, bears, and other things. The most notable is claiming that the family witnessed owls by some skeptics. Owls would explain the awkward walk the creatures had, and seeing how owls spread their wings to appear bigger, they say could easily explain the creatures moving towards the men with their arms raised over their heads. Critics aligned with the owl theory say the moon that night is what gave the glowing effect, and also the shining eyes. Owls are also known to get aggressive when their nest is threatened, and they tend to be in pairs. To them, it explains a lot, even the way they floated. But I find it very hard to believe that a family of people who live and are used to the area and the creatures in that area have simply mistaken owls as the almost 4 foot tall glowing beings. Not only that, but since when were owls made of metal? I've never tried, nor would I, but I can only imagine they don't make a metallic clang when shot or hit with anything. Some people like to hypothesize they were just drunk and started seeing things. It was a small gathering after all. Maybe they were celebrating and it got out of hand. But Miss Langford absolutely allowed no liquor in her house. Alcohol was never found or anyone seemingly drunk by the officers. On top of that, I've had a good time before, but drinking has never caused me and the people I was around an alien invasion hallucinatory event, no matter how much alcohol was involved. I personally think that this is a bogus argument. Keep in mind, this isn't one or two individuals either. It's a family of 11 people. Of course, only 10 of the 11 saw it, only because one of the females said she was too scared to open her eyes and stayed hidden the entire time. So a family of 11 got this terrified of a couple of owls. Owls they would have seen their entire lives living in the area. I can't get behind that theory either. Of course, a meteor shower did take place around this time, but that only possibly explains what was seen falling out of the sky, not the entire night's events afterwards. It is worth pointing out that during the entire event, none of the creatures seemed to try and force themselves into the house. Why? If the story is true, what would have been the creature's purpose of terrorizing the family all night, leaving when police showed up only to reappear later after the group left? All in all, it is a very strange story. But do I think the family is lying? Absolutely not. 14 years later, Geraldine Sutton, who goes by her married name now, Stith, was 8 when people dressed in church clothes came knocking on the door of their house one day asking to speak to her daddy. When he came out to talk to them, they told him they were UFO researchers and wanted to ask him questions about that day. After that, Lucky decided to tell Stith about the events from the past, even carrying her to the farmhouse where the events took place. She's quoted as saying, quote, "My daddy didn't like how people treated him once the story got out. People made fun of him. It was traumatizing. Still to this day, the witnesses who are alive are afraid to talk." Unquote. Today, this case is considered a serious and heavily debated piece of ufology. If you've ever heard the phrase little green men, it's because of this case and of the small goblin like glowing alien creatures helping to popularize it. The original quote by one of the family was actually little gray men, but the media misquoted the comment, leading to the recognizable title of today. Steven Spielberg would later use the case as inspiration for his movies E.T. and Close Encounters of the Third Kind. It is also inspiration for the movie Gremlins. No matter what you may think or hypothesize of the case or the events that unfolded over that long night in 1955, Kelly, Kentucky, the fact remains that something filled a group of 11 people with absolute terror. Thank you for watching. And if you have any thoughts on the case, please comment below. If you enjoyed it, please like and subscribe. And I hope you return to the channel. In the meantime, I hope you all have a very blessed day. See you soon.